Hello everyone, today we are gonna build a decision tree classifier in Python to predict whether a person survived the Titanic or not, based on the class, the gender, and the age. So first thing we need to do is to import the object that will allow us to access the function that calculates the mathematical equation of the decision tree. So we import decision tree classifier because this is a classification model, not a regression. A regression would be if the variable we would like to predict is a continuous number, like 1.7, 2.3, etc. So decision tree classifier, now we instantiate a variable, let's call it model. And now we try to access the function that calculates the mathematical equation, fit. We don't even need to know the theory behind machine learning in a way, because the proper function is giving us a hint on how these machine learning models work. If we press Shift tab, they are telling us that we need to provide them with X and Y, explanatory variables, and the target variable. So we divide the data, df survive. We need to df Titanic, because that's how we call the data frame. And now we select all of the columns but survived, and we assign it into a variable, explanatory. Then we try to fit the model with X equals explanatory variables, Y equals the target. We execute and we get an error. The error says that it cannot convert a string to float, male. That's because in explanatory, we have strings, and the Python function needs numbers to compute the mathematical equation. So we are gonna use the function get dummies from pandas to get the categories is as columns and the values converted to 0 or 1. We don't need to know one column because it's the same information. Now we reassign it into the variable and we split the data again. df, drop, columns, survive, and the same for the target. And now when we execute, it should work. But it doesn't work. Why? Because we have got NA values. Let's check it. Explanatory is NA, sum. Here we have 177 people from which we don't know the age. How do we solve this? We drop the people for which we don't have the age. We reassign it into the variable, and then we separate the data again. Drop columns equal survived, and then the target the same. Now we execute and we should finally fit the mathematical equation of the model. That is it. And now we would like to visualize the decision tree model. How do we do that? Well, we need to find a function which is going to be in the sklearn library in the tree module, and the function is called plot tree. We ask Python how to use this function with a Shift tab, and Python is asking for the decision tree, which is in our model variable. Then they ask for max depth, but it's an optional parameter. For the sake of interpreting the model, I'm gonna make a shorter model with a depth of 3. Model, decision tree classifier, max depth 3. And there we have it. I think I'm gonna make even 2 better. so that we can better interpret it. That's good. And as we can see here, we don't see the name of the variable, we just see x2. If we want to see the name of the variable, we need to use the parameter feature names. And feature names is asking for a list of strings which contain the names of each of the features of each of the explanatory variables. So features names equals to explanatory.columns, that gives us the name of the columns. And then we can see here the name of the columns. Now we are gonna field so that we can see with some pretty nice colors. And to interpret these numbers that appear on the decision tree, you're gonna calculate a prediction. For example, let's say that we want to know the first person. The first person is a male with 22 years old in third class, and he didn't survive. So if we want to predict whether the model classifies this person as if he survives or not, we use the function model predicts. And then we get here explanatory 1. It's telling that the model is telling us that this person didn't survive, but we want to calculate the probability. So if I calculate the probability, it's saying that 82% of the people in the historical data set didn't survive with these conditions, and 17% of the people did survive with this condition. How did it calculate this number? So the person at the beginning, sex male is less than 0.5? No. So because it's 1. As this is false, the tree goes to the right. If this condition would have been true, the tree should go to the left. So now we are asking, is this person younger than 6.5 years old? This person is 22 years old. It isn't. So again, we go to the right. And how many people in the historical data accomplish this condition? 429. And out of these people, how many of them survived? 77. So we divide and we get 17%, which is the same number as that the predict proba function gives us. So that's how the model calculates the predictions. And as this number, this probability is lower than the 50%, we classify this person as 0, as this person didn't survive. That's why when we use the predict function, it gives us a 0. So now, if we want to evaluate the model, I'm gonna make a data set with just the survive column. And then I'm gonna calculate the predictions for all the data. So X equals explanatory, and I'm gonna put this data into the data frame. Predictions equals to here. To omit this warning, we need to create a copy of the previous data frame. Now it's good. And then here we can see that the model for the first person is good, and for the second person is good, and for the third person it doesn't make a correct classification, because in reality this person survived, but the prediction of the model of the decision tree is telling us that this person didn't survive. So how do we check how good is the model? We calculate is if the real data is the same than the predictions. We get true or false if this condition is fulfilled. So if the true is 1 and the false is 0, we can make the sum and we divide by the total number, which is 714. This is the same than calculating the mean. So we get an accuracy of 80%. 80% of the people were correctly classified by the model. Is it a function that calculates the accuracy of the model? Yes. Where should it be? In the model objects, in the decision tree. So the function is score, is asking for explanatory and the target, X and Y, and it should give us the same number. And there we have it. So if you want to understand this model, you should be able to reproduce the same functions and the same conclusions with another data set. This is the data set that I am proposing to you. It's called the iris dataset for flowers, and the target is to predict species based on these other columns. So practice it. If you have any doubt, let me know in the comments below. And if you liked the video, give the thumbs up. It's been a pleasure. And if you have any suggestions for videos to come, please let me know and I will be happy to make them. Bye-bye. Have a good time.